Let's continue the blame game. Let's go to the defense. So, the defensive line, and Ryan, we talked about this last week before the game. We talked about the numbers and how often the Lions, do pressure on blitzes and how bad Cousins is against the blitz, all that stuff. I didn't see any pressure from a four-man front from the Lions. The Vikings ran all over them, and the line just did not do their job on this one. The linebackers, Anzalone, great job, 10 tackles, couple quarterback hits. Malcolm Rodriguez had a bunch of tackles as well, but he had some big misses as well. Obviously the big play to Irv Smith with him slipping behind him. Kuda did his job absolutely. Where was A.O.? A.O. was nowhere to be seen. Man was getting beat and penalty after penalty after penalty. Look, I get it. It was smart with Akuda to have a safety over the top as well to help with the double teaming and taking away their best weapon. Well, guess what? Cousins adjusted, and now you got KJ Osborne and Adam Thielen combining for 11 catches for 134 yards and 2 touchdowns. Only 5 catches did not happen the times that they were targeted. So Cousins did what he needed to do. The defense should have adjusted accordingly. Obviously, Amani is not getting the job done by himself. The penalties are racking up. He's not doing his job. The defense let this game slip away as well. Then obviously at the very, very end, back-to-back wide open plays to KJ Osborne to seal the deal for the Minnesota Vikings. So the defense, in my mind, gets a lot of this blame as well.
Yeah, and you didn't even mention Aiden Hutchinson. We've played 12 quarters of football now, and he's been a ghost for 10 of them. He had 3 sacks last week in the first half, and other than that, you barely know the guys out there, and that goes to the pass rush. It's not just him, obviously. I thought McNeil on the defensive line played really well in that game against the Vikings, but yeah, everybody else on the defensive line, there's no pressure. Obviously, they're not stopping the run and getting in those gaps because Madison was having a day. Dalvin Cook was having a day before he ended up getting hurt. And the linebacking unit we already knew was bad, and they couldn't cover Irv Smith Jr. We don't have a ton of great coverage linebackers, and certainly not. And Irv Smith had probably what was the game of his life. It seemed like they called him not every play, obviously, because there are other guys getting involved, but there's a whole lot of Irv Smith Jr. that I didn't think we were going to see. We mentioned Okudah did his job locking up Jefferson, but that just made the Vikings look to everybody else, and everybody else, for the lack of a better word, like they were open. Adam Thielen's ancient, and he was catching touchdown passes. He was catching first downs, keeping the chains moving. KJ Osborne, who's from Detroit, was having a great day as well. And it's frustrating because, it's frustrating in totality because Kirk Cousins is sort of like a whatever quarterback. He's in the top half of the NFL starters, but probably like on the bottom side of that top half. And he's a guy who's just given the Lions hell for, however many years he's been in Minnesota now. And he's not that good to be consistently giving you hell. This isn't Aaron Rodgers, who, if he beats you, you're like, okay, that makes sense, right? But you can consistently getting beat by Kirk Cousins. We're not getting the type of pressure that we want to get on him, and obviously we're not stopping the run game. And they wanted to probably come in with the balance, right? They sure thought Justin Jefferson was going to be, a bigger part of the offense than he was on Sunday, I'm sure. And Dan Campbell spoke to that today in his press conference. He said we wanted to neutralize Jefferson and sort of make the other guys beat them, and then the other guys ended up beating them. And I was like, well, yeah, I guess you got what you asked for, right? But, just the problem is you can't let those other guys beat you because those other guys aren't good enough to beat you, and they shouldn't have been good enough to beat you, and I don't think they would have been if you just punted the ball on 4th down.
It's kind of like game 1 of the NBA Finals when the Warriors focused so hard on Tatum to make sure he didn't. Everybody else in the Celtics uniform had a field day to pull that game 1 upset. But this is a one-time shot. You don't get 7 games in this one to bounce back. All right, next in the blame game, the special teams. We missed a 48-yard field goal. Obviously, we missed a 54-yard field goal. A 39-yard punt by Jack Fox, who's one of the better punters in the game. And the Vikings got to start at their own 43-yard line. They scored a touchdown on that one. Khalif Raymond, you let a punt land at the 31-yard line, and you let it bounce and roll all the way inside the 10-yard line. These things add up. Special teams, definitely did not do them any favors on this Sunday game against the Minnesota Vikings.
No, and I think for the most part, our special teams are bad too. It's not, we don't have a elite kick returner like we had when we had, Agnew. And I know Agnew was all pro. I still didn't like him very much, but he's better than the kick returners we have now. They're certainly not Eddie Drummond all that time ago, probably 15 years. Now the Lions had an elite kick returner. Golden Tate was back there returning punts, and he was pretty good for us. But we don't have that. You saw that throughout the Hard Knocks, throughout the preseason, when the Lions are testing out different kick returners. This week we had Justin Jackson, who I think he averaged 20 yards like a kick return with a long of 24. So nothing special there, at least not yet. And then just the other mistakes that you mentioned. Now, I'm not worried about Jack Fox. I am worried about the kicking in general. That certainly can't happen. If you are the Lions, you need to have just a better kicker, right? I know Paul, who we know and we're in a group chat with, he's big on Rodrigo Blankenship. Now, I think Blankenship probably got cut for a reason from the Colts, and I know he got cut for a reason because he missed all those kicks in their Week 1 game against whoever they played, and the Colts ended up tying that game. But he's probably better
Texans.
But he's probably better than what Austin Seibert is. So I think the Lions just need to grab a new kicker. We've seen this before we got Prater, between Hansen and Prater, when we were going through Dave Rayner, maybe David Akers, all these bad kickers that the Lions had, and then they were able to get Prater, not because Prater was bad at his job, because he had some off the field troubles, and then the Lions went and brought him in, and then we had another great kicker for 6-7 years, however long Matt Prater was here, and then you just didn't have to worry about it. But now you do. And I think that's part of Dan Campbell's aggressiveness and going forward on fourth down is I don't think he fully trusts Austin Seibert. Now, today he did say again he would send Seibert back out there to kick a 54-yard field goal, even though yesterday after the game he said, hey, I regret the decision. So there's a little bit of double talk there, and I understand he wants to back his guy, but his actions for the most part show that he doesn't trust Austin Seibert that much, and I don't think he should, and it's just frustrating that in the biggest moment he decided to trust him instead of trust your best special teams player in Jack Fox.
All right, and second to last one for the blame game, the injuries. Obviously, we lost Tracy Walker for the whole season, Achilles injury. That sucked. Swift was not 100% coming in. It was obvious that ankle is bothering him. And then Amon-Ra St. Brown goes down with a lower body injury as well. So you have 3 key players in different aspects of the game. A defensive back, a wide receiver, a running back. They're all very key to what we do, especially offensively with Swift and Amon-Ra St. Brown. Yes, St. Brown toughed it out and he played a decent game, but you could tell he wasn't himself. He wasn't 100%. So how much do injuries play a factor in this loss, especially with Swift? Look, as great as Jamal Williams was, the number of yards per carry that Swift was getting is absolutely ridiculous, and Jamal Williams ain't touching that.
I think Swift's probably bigger, but they came into the game very Jamal Williams heavy. So I know Swift, he got re-injured during the game, but he was already playing her, and you could tell they would put him in spots. They gave him 3 carries in the first half, and then maybe 2 or 3 more in the second half. And one of the carries he had, he looked pretty good when he had the ball in his hand still, but one of the carries he came out because it looked like he hurt his ankle, and then he came back in and he hurt his shoulder, and then he was out again. The St. Brown one is interesting because I think the St. Brown one maybe affected how they called the game in the fourth quarter, knowing that he wasn't 100%, and he's obviously Jared Goff's safety blanket, the guy that he really likes to go to on third down, fourth down when they need it, really just throughout the game. That's why St. Brown has 7 or 8 catches straight in however many games it is now, because him and Jared Goff are just, they're familiar with each other like that, and that's Goff's guy. That's Goff's go-to guy. So maybe that affected some of the play calling that the Lions had in the fourth quarter, which could have affected the outcome of the game. Maybe if they're a little more aggressive, if they trust that St. Brown can get open or can make this play or whatever, then I guess there could have been a different outcome. But you still look at the Vikings. Like Dalvin Cook was hurt, and that's their best player, second best player, I guess. If you want to say Justin Jefferson's their best player, but it just happens. That's what the NFL is kind of about. Guys are going to get hurt. You're going to have next man up mentality, and for the Lions, they have again a pretty good running back. I thought Jamal Williams did play really well. Reynolds, when he got in there, I thought he played pretty well too, because that offensive line, even while that's not fully healthy, I thought they still did a pretty nice job of run blocking and creating holes for just whoever was getting the the handoff back there.
Okay, actually lied. We have two more. So the second to last one actually is the refs. Was Amani really that dirty? Did Jamal Williams really deserve a flag for the touchdown celebration? It seemed like there was a decent amount of holding on the edges for the Minnesota Vikings offensive line. Did the refs play a factor in this? Because it seemed like the calls started coming after the Lions went up 14-0.
I don't know, because if I was a Vikings fan, I'd be pretty upset about the Lions have the ball. They're trying to ice the game, and it is, for whatever reason, they decide to throw on this play. It's an incomplete pass. Jared Goff throws the ball straight into the ground, but they call defensive holding on the Vikings, even though it was for real, like snap, throw the ball away. So the holding, it's not like Jared Goff was looking downfield and it affected the play or something. And then is an automatic first down when I think it would have been second, or might have even been like 3rd and 10 after that, when the Vikings were trying to make a comeback. And we said it in the group chat when that happened. We're like, oh, the Vikings are turning into the Lions, with the dumb penalty and giving away the free first down. Obviously, it didn't happen. That came back to bite us. But I thought that was a really important play, at least at the time, that the refs, benefited the Lions with. And then even at the end of the first half, when the Vikings are trying to score, they're running, they have the ball. I think their center has it, their guard, one of them. They're trying to give the ball to the ref so he can spot it, and then Charles Harris knocks the ball out of his hands. And it wastes 1 or 2 seconds. The refs have to pick it back up. By that time, the clock expires. And then Kirk Cousins and Kevin O'Connell, the Vikings coach, are going over to the ref saying, how can you let him do that? So I thought the Lions got away with some stuff where if I was a Vikings fan and they ended up losing, I'd probably be asking the same question. Say, how big of a factor did the refs play? So I think the refs were, pretty neutral. If you want to say they're bad both ways, I guess. But I thought they were pretty neutral in this game.
I had to throw it out there, Detroit versus everybody, and the refs loved, we've had plenty of examples throughout our lives as Lions fans of just egregious calls. I didn't see anything too egregious. I thought Amani did some pretty good amount of holding and illegal contact.
He had that holding or that defensive pass interference that didn't get called on one of the plays for I remember that.
So then last but not least, the offense. And look, we know this about Jared Goff. He doesn't have that strong of an arm. And that's one of the things that makes Amon-Ra St. Brown so important, is his ability after the catch to stretch it 4 yards. And DJ Chark, who could be that guy to go deep and take the top off the defense, is great. But if you don't have a quarterback that can hit him, what's the point? Obviously, missing Swift plays a big factor. Jamal Williams is a very good running back. I still don't think he's RB1 on any team in the NFL. He's RB2, and that's that, and that's fine. But he's not a starting running back in the NFL. He's just, in my mind, he's just not. And so he did a fantastic job picking up the slack for Swift, but not having Swift plays a factor in the offensive plays. But when you are playing with who you got, you still got to go out and do the job. Hawk running a 3-yard out on a 3rd and 6. What was the point of that? Why are you running it short of the sticks? You have 3 defenders right behind you. You're not getting through them to get those extra 9 feet you need to get after catching the ball. It doesn't make any sense to me. There was just countless times where the offense, I thought, let this team down as well. Receivers who were not making the sticks, Goff missing on throws. Do they get the most of the blame in this blame game? No, by far not. Absolutely. But I'm trying to get the point across that this is a team effort, win or lose. And I think every aspect of our team failed at crucial points to help the Lions walk away from Minnesota with a victory.
Yeah, and Jared Goff, I thought he played all right, but, there's certainly throws and plays that he left on the field that you want to have back, but you know that is essentially what you're going to get from Jared Goff. You know, Hawk had a touchdown. I still don't know that he's the guy that the Lions want or need him to be. The offense was frustrating. You know, they had their touchdown streak going until the fourth quarter when they didn't score a touchdown. And it's a time it would have been really nice to score a touchdown and for that streak to keep going, because if that happens, we're talking about the 2-1 Lions instead of the 1-2 Lions. But it's still, for me, it's still hard to get so mad at an offense that's consistently giving you 24 points, 27 points, whatever it is, because that's usually enough to at least keep you in the game. It's enough to win a lot of games, and it's enough to keep you in the game like deep in the fourth quarter. But if their defense just can't stop anybody, then it is what it is. And now they needed to make plays in that fourth quarter, and they didn't end up doing it. They could have obviously got a first down before the 4th and 4 even happened, and then we're not talking about this. And I thought they made enough plays. I thought they had some nice explosive plays throughout the game. There were just it was kind of absent in that fourth quarter, especially when you got that gift of that defensive holding that we just talked about with Minnesota, where you threw the ball, it stopped the clock, and everyone probably at that point is thinking oh no, here we go again, same old Lions. They're not going to get the 10 or 15 yards that they need on this play, and then the Vikings are going to get back with a chance to tie. That doesn't happen. It's a first down. It's oh my God, this is a huge break, and then the offense still can't do anything with it. And it's just, so that part's still frustrating all around. You want them to be able to execute those plays. But I think of all the people that we've listed blame on so far, the offense would be the lowest on the list.
I agree. Absolutely. And, just a reminder for all the Kool-Aid drinkers out there who want to chant, Super Bowl bound after one victory, or, oh my God, it's the end of the world after one loss. This is still a young team that is learning how to do it correctly in the NFL. I want to get to the point that we are no longer a laughingstock, an embarrassment in the NFL, and that we are competitive. To me, I'm seeing things on the right track, and that we are working our way towards being a consistently competitive football team. But our defense is not good. We knew this coming in. The secondary especially was going to have issues. And we knew the offense was going to have to carry the load. They were going to have to put up 30-plus points because the defense can easily give up 30-plus points. So 24 points by the offense is not enough. And you are getting some of the blame from me in this one, especially when you put up 14 pretty quickly in a game and then can't do anything pretty much after that, especially in the fourth quarter. Is play calling an issue? Absolutely. A very unbalanced fourth quarter. 4 passes to 14 rushing attempts is not the way to get it done. I understand you want to bleed the clock. If you're going to bleed the clock all the way down. Don't snap it with 10 seconds left on the play clock. What's the point of that? Take it down to one or two before you do it if this is your goal and your plan. I hate this plan. I've always hated this plan. I hate when you stop playing football and start playing prevent to stop the other team. No, go score, go play your offense, and get the job done. That's the best part of this team this year is our offense. It's not special teams. It's not defense. The offense is the best part of the Detroit Lions last year, so rely on them. Let them do their job because the defense is going to have a harder time doing their job because they're just not as good at it. They're younger, and they don't have all the pieces they need. The offense has most of the pieces they need to get the job done. Let them do their job. So just all around for me, this was a complete team loss by the Lions, from head coaching all the way down to kicking. It didn't matter. You can spread your blame how you want, but it wasn't all on one thing. This was a team loss for the Lions, and this is a team that is still learning how to win. You are in your second year, 20th game by Dan Campbell. It's gonna take some time. He's gotten a lot of things right. The players seem to love him. He seems to get it. But calling the game, and especially calling the game in crucial moments, it's going to take some time. In my mind, I think it's going to take some time to learn how to do that correctly.
I don't know why it would take time, though. He's been around the NFL before. I know he hasn't been a head coach, but he's seen late game situations. You should understand how this is going to play out. I don't think you need to coach 40 games in the NFL to know. Let the play clock run down before you snap the ball. or to not kick a 54-yard field goal with a kicker who's never made one before. So I understand that he's still inexperienced as a head coach, although he was the more experienced head coach on Sunday against the Vikings, because this is Kevin O'Connell's first year and Dan Campbell's second. But he's just been around the game of football in the NFL long enough to at least, I think, understand clock management. I think that should be probably the easiest thing, in my opinion, for a coach to understand. And some of the X's and O's stuff and some of the schematic stuff, maybe that can come later. If there's something you haven't seen from a head coaching's perspective, and then another coach just comes in and they slap you around a little bit, right? And you're like, oh my God, what the hell happened? You go review the tape. You're like, oh, they did that, and I had no idea that even existed. And then you can get better from that. I don't know how much better you get at game and time management if he's been playing football since high school. You should understand the importance of 2-minute drills, 4-minute drills, of just playing the clock and knowing how to use it in your favor, and knowing how to use it when kind of your back's up against it and you need as little clock to run as possible. So I think I'm a little more pessimistic than you that will get fixed.
Well, then we got to hope that, like Andy Reid, he gets so much offensive talent on his teams that he can spend his whole career being terrible at clock management, but can still win a whole lot of football games.
I mean, you even look at Jim Caldwell, who was here and went to a Super Bowl before he came here. He never really got better at the in-game managing part of coaching, and he's a head coach for probably, I don't know, probably not 10 years, but probably close to 7 or 8 years of full head coaching experience.
Hey, Ryan Griffin here. Thank you so much for watching today's episode of Griffin and Bass. Be sure to give us your thoughts in the comments below. Remember to click the bell to receive the latest notifications from DSN, and subscribe for breaking news, community blogs, polls, contests, and other content.